and welcome to Manifest Marriages. I got my better half with me. I'm talking about her, not asparagus. Yeah, so Beth, you go first.
Oh,
Beth had mentioned that we need to have tougher questions.
Tougher
So
question.
she's got one. I don't know what it is, and I've got one. She doesn't know what it is. So
Yes, and so my question that I think is a little bit harder to ask is, what do you think is something that's really important to men in marriage that women misunderstand or often get wrong?
wow.
Yeah, it's a hard one for us ladies. Let's pay attention.
Oh man, say it again.
So what's something that's important to men in the marriage that we either misunderstand, don't get it, or like we just don't, like, we're getting it wrong. What women, I shouldn't say get it wrong, but like it's something that we don't do often enough, I guess, or
The opposite of getting it right.
Getting it wrong.
I think men want to be understood. I think is a big thing, surprisingly. Now I can't speak for all men, but I think a lot of guys, because men tend to be visionaries, they tend to look at something, and they want to share that with somebody. They want to share, what they're seeing and or what an idea that they have. The tricky part about that is, even though your spouse may be your best friend, they're your ride or die, the person that's going through life with you, their mind, especially with ladies, their mind's wired differently. So when a guy says, "Man, I'm really thinking about getting this three-wheeler," or "I'm thinking about opening up this business," a lot of times women's minds, ladies' minds, they go to the cost of that. How much is that going to cost? It goes.
How does it disrupt their security?
Yeah, it just and they think, how are we going to fit that into all of this? And they try to see themselves in it too. Like, how do I fit into that? Am I going to be driving with you in that? Or, so it's, so men have to be wise about who they share that with. Because when you're with the guys or whatever, and you share that, and you got a friend that goes, "Man, that's a neat idea." They'll say, "What does your lady think? What does Sarah think? Or what does Beth think? Or whoever it is, And so I think that's something that they just want to be heard at first. It doesn't mean they're going to work on it tomorrow. And your man may be like that. He may jump right up. So then you definitely want to caution. You want to slow him down. But
I'm not gonna lie, that's not the answer I thought you were gonna give.
because I thought, and you can give the one you thought I was going to give, because I think early on I was definitely much more emotional, much more spontaneous, much more up and down, and so that makes the marriage feel unsteady.
Yeah.
Like if this is the captain of the boat, I don't want to get seasick. And so I think the waters are calmer now. They're not quite as choppy, and we've been married 19 years, so it takes a little while where that regulates and starts to equal, the equilibrium, I guess. What did you think I was going to say?
I honestly thought you were going to say respect. Like, I thought you were going to talk about how men want to be respected and how women are not, like what we deem as respect is not what men view respect as. So maybe I didn't ask that question in a good way. Or I've learned something that I didn't know.
Get too close to mom.
So, anyway.
Because she's not crazy. Beth's not crazy about asparagus.
I'm fine with asparagus. I just don't want her to get on.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, I don't want to hold her. No.
Stay away.
Yeah. I'm very understanding about pets, but I just don't want them to crawl on me.
I just thought she wanted a photo op. I figured that she wanted to. But you see the distance between us now on the film. Like we're pushing the frame. I'll put her on this.
All right.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
All right.
As long as you keep her on your shoulder.
Okay. So yeah, I think being understood is a big thing for guys, because men don't always know how to express themselves.
Okay, yeah.
So when it does come out, they are looking for you as their best friend to go,
"Oh yeah,
that's a neat idea."
Yeah, let's do that.
And just let that ride for a little while. And in the back of your mind or in prayer, you're going, "Lord, that's crazy. We can't do that right now." Because your husband's tendencies. If they do have trouble with money or with gambling or they're impulsive buyers or whatever it is, you really want to take that before the Lord, because and it needs to be addressed. You're going to have to tell your husband, "Honey, we can't. I hear you on this. And he's like, oh, you always say no. We'll say yes, but then show them and say, if we're doing this, and this, let's see how much we have to do that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to look and they're going to go.
Instead of just shutting it down.
Yeah, don't shut it down. And you can frame it in a positive way. You can say, well, let's take of everything we need to take care of. Let's make a list and budget that, and then we can launch into that. It's going to be awesome. And then you go through the list, and they're realizing it's going to take 6 months to save. They can't get that bike overnight. And you say, well, I'm with you on it, and we may just wait, 6 months, or tax return or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as women think more about safety issues than men do, where men are more fearless and adventurous, and they're like, oh yeah, I want to get a dirt bike and go dirt bike ride, and you're like, I don't want you to break your neck. So, I mean, I can see where instead of just shutting it down, like talking about it, working through it, communicating a little better. Okay.
You ready for mine?
I don't know. We'll see.
Asparagus, is she ready?
We'll see. Am I ready?
So my question is, why do you think we've stayed together so long? And not so long. I mean, just people have been married 30, 40, 50 years. Personally, because you just told me to go a little harder questions, why do you think you and I have, it's twofold, why we don't argue as much and why we've lasted 19 years.
I think that has a lot of different answers. So let me go with the first one. Why have we stayed as long as we have? I think because when we both came, well, first of all, we are both committed to the Lord.
Yeah.
And we knew that when we got married, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm attracted to you and I like you. It was, I think that this is, I sense in my spirit that this is the person that the Lord, has special things for us to be married to each other. So, and we've both felt that in prayer and whatnot since before we were married. So I think that puts a different level on it because it's not like we were not saved and we got married and then we made this a godly marriage. I mean, it started out with the Lord is our center and our focus of He wants us to be together. So it's a little harder to walk away when you start like that. And then we did hold to the biblical principles of marriage and commitment where, we have committed to each other to stay married without divorce. Like divorce isn't an option.
Right.
Unless there's a covenant break between one of us. And I remember really being like, really on that when we first got married, and I think there was a point in time where we had been married for so long, I was like, man, even if that happened right now, if he cheated on me, would I just automatically go to divorce? Like, I don't know, we've been married for so long, like, and I'm not saying, don't get this the wrong way. No, there's not been anything like that in our marriage. No. But at the same time, like, I had that thought process of where before I was like, if he ever does it, it's over. No.
It's just like it's going to be gone.
Yeah, like
it's
that.
Out.
And it is intolerable. People, I mean, it's a covenant break. That's why it's such a big deal where Jesus is like, you can get divorced for that. But even then I had a point in our marriage where I was like, I don't know how fast that would be just to throw the divorce word up for that. I
feel the same way. You got you got children involved.
Yeah, it's a lot more involved than what when you're. Yeah, but and none of that has gone on. So I just want to clarify that again. But the other reason I think we've stayed together is just I think, and you talked about not arguing, I think our shared values, we talked about that earlier. I think that has had a big deal for us that we didn't get into this marriage unequally yoked where one of us were on a different spiritual level either. We were very much, and we've grown together.
Yeah.
One of us didn't stay down there and the other one. And I will say this, ladies, having a husband who is leading you, who is actually the head of the household and leading your house spiritually, it's easier to grow together in a marriage when your husband is in that place and you're honoring him in that. I mean, I can't tell you how much this man has really just fed me the word of God and just, spoken over me and into my life and led me at times, dragged me at times. So, you know what I mean? Like,
you were pretty willing.
well, yeah, but there are times where I know it was your prayers that have really taken us to a different level and things like that. So not being unequally yoked has really helped. And these are things that we've talked about too. So I think it's interesting that we're back here again.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is when you said the thing about arguing as much, I think we, following after God and really having Him as the center of our marriage. That really is the short answer, is having God at the center of our marriage has sustained us. It's actually drawn us closer together. It's made us more understanding of each other. It's helped us identify things in our own hearts that we didn't even know was there towards each other so that we could take care of it and really, come together in unity on certain things. And the unity piece too is letting Him, really looking at us that we're one, and it doesn't mean we never do anything separate, but that honor for each other like that.
God really brings about a freshness. We talked about being in the day.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody at work about it. It just feels like, it doesn't feel like 19 years. It doesn't feel like 19 days. It just feels like it's just one day.
Yeah.
And not in a monotonous way. It just feels like it's fresh. Like every time you get up.
Yeah, not like a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it's just like a new, I don't know what today holds. It's kind of excitement, but a little undergirded with hope for the day,
Yeah. And I really genuinely love telling you and sharing things with you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like you're just so much into your own world where we don't connect. We connect on a lot of things so that, it makes you want to just, be that partner and helpmate and, connect with each other. It's been really good. And then our kids too. We really do a lot of things as a family.
Oh, yeah.
And,
it's hard to even get.
Yeah,
like they're so used to doing it. Like if we don't go on dates nights as consistently as we did at a time. But when we do, they're like shocked. They're like, "Where y'all going? Like, what's happening? No. When y'all coming back? Are y'all spending the night?" Like, they're just like, why are y'all doing this? Like, it's a problem.
Like, y'all are doing a date night?
Yeah,
what? That kind of started when we moved to Alaska too. And we didn't have people to watch the kids as much.
Yeah.
And now that we're back and we've got like grandparents and stuff to watch the kids, they're like, what?
Yeah, we didn't have many dates in Alaska.
No, we didn't. But there was so much to see as a family too, so it just worked itself out. But what about you? What do you think has sustained us?
The presence of God is huge because He refreshes. He's like, when you get brittle and you get short with each other and you're impatient, and I'm in the flesh, I can tell. But when you're in the presence, either separately or together, like in a meeting or again, and like today was incredible. Like,
oh yeah,
it's hard to put into words. Like, I'm still coming down from that time when we went out to eat together as a family, and I was just like. Beth could tell I was still in a stupor. I was functioning and I was physically there and I was answering questions, but it was just it's just how I'm very interested in how He shows Himself and why He does that.
Yeah.
But another practical one is space.
Oh yeah.
Space. About midway through our marriage, maybe sooner than that, we moved out to. No, it was pretty early on. We moved out to my grandparents' house. And
it was like around the third year.
Really? That early?
Well,
maybe it was.
Yeah, because we were in the first apartment 9 months, and then the second apartment 9 months, so 18 months in, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. So. It was pretty early on. So very early on, we noticed that we could be out in the country and watch a sunset together, and not talk.
Yeah.
And we'll be in the car, and it's quiet, and we enjoyed the space.
You didn't have to fill it up with stuff.
Right. Yeah. You didn't have to talk the whole time. And then another thing we noticed is it's important that you know how much space you need. Because I was just telling someone yesterday, everybody can't work together.
No.
Like everybody can't work. And if you work for the same employer, to what capacity?
Yeah.
Does that mean that one of you is the supervisor of the other? Do you work in the same department?
Yeah.
Can you just work in the same grounds and just see each other and wave and it's enough? And then we know that we can work in the missions field together. We can work real close as a family. We can share. I think it's still good. There it goes. We can share a car together. We've learned that. And we can work at the same place. And I think I'd be fine if Beth was my supervisor. And I think if I was her supervisor, I think it'd be okay. I don't think we'd have a lot of trouble. But we do need space still.
Yes.
So I still need time where
you just have your time,
Yeah, I just go on a walk, whether it's I'm spending time with the Lord, or I go draw or paint, or I maybe even go to the movies. She goes with her mom.
Yeah.
You know, she goes
I'll
to the
go
movies.
to the movie by myself.
She'll go by herself.
Don't do that. I will.
And I don't get weird about that. I go, why is she doing that? Or if Beth said, hey, I want to go to Charlottesville and spend a night with a friend, you know, like Cynthia Murray, like, you know, her name dropping because Cynthia's awesome. But if she said it, I'd be fine with it, you know. She's done that with me. Beth's given me a lot of liberties that other people may be like, why did she do that? Like, I just wanted to hang out in Charlottesville one night all by myself. This was, maybe we were 8-9 years in.
Yeah.
And I just did. I just stayed in a hotel. I didn't see anybody hardly. It's just something I wanted to do. She had little Andrew. Andrew was, how old was Andrew when Lionel and I went to Texas?
Michael was like almost 2, and Andrew was 4,
Yeah,
and they went down to Texas.
My buddy and I went down to Texas, and we were, you know, looking for scorpions and going out in the desert and all that. And I love that kind of stuff. He did too. Yeah. And Beth, here she is with these 2 little guys. And other people have been like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, we were gone for a week, So, but I got that out of my system. I didn't do it 40 times. I did it one time.
One time, yeah.
And it was fun. Space. Give yourself space. Give yourself, if you're feeling, this is something else that we've gotten a lot better at, praise God, is that you'll feel the tension between us. Beth will say, why did you put this over here? And I'll get snarky back or whatever, and I'll say, I did it for this, or I don't care, I'll play it off, and it's important to her, and I'm just like not being really sensitive about it. And she won't press it. And I'm just, you know, applaud you on that, because you let it die down. It's like it wants to raise up, like the anger wants to go to 6,000, and it just gets to 2, and we come back down, and it goes, and we'll change the subject or talk about something else, or I'll say, oh, I'll get it, or whatever. Yeah,
and I think learning each other's personalities too, because I remember earlier on, you would want to talk, like we would get in a tiff about something, and you were like pressing.
Yeah, I want to deal with it right now.
You wanted to deal with it right then, and I'm like, I know me, and I know my temper, and I need to walk away a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if I talk right now, I'm going to say something that's not good.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our fights came from, because it would be pressed, and I'd be like, okay, you want it? Here you go.
Yeah.
And then we'd be in it, and that's not good. No.
And then there would be issues brought up from other things that I had missed or gotten wrong, and I'm like, where'd they come from? But I pressed, and it came out, you know.
Yeah, instead of dealing with the one issue, you like blast them with all of it, and I think we've gotten much better about that too.
We both have, but you really have gotten good about. I've done with you what you learned early on, and I didn't even think about it till just now, honestly. And I think Pastor Martin was a huge contributor to that. It just took a few years to really grab it, but I went to him for marriage counseling one time. Just on the side, and he talked about, I can't remember the person's garden. It was like Melvin's garden or something. That's what he called it.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, Melvin, when he and his wife would get into it, he would go to the garden, you'd see him working, and they would let, like, into the evening. And then later he would come back, and then they would talk about that issue. He wouldn't address it right there. And I had the hardest time doing that, because I'm like, I want to deal with it right now, so I can go on to the next, because I'm going to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
But your marriage is worth the wait. It's worth the space. Other things in life, you can address them immediately, something on your job, or, you know, because I don't like to procrastinate, but when it comes to marriage, you're not procrastinating, you're letting God work. You're giving him room.
Well, not only that, but it's helping, it would help me work through, it would help me work through the emotional aspect of it. Like if I went away and I gave that, like, you know, gave it to God instead of you, then a lot of times I can weed through the emotional aspect of it and then get to what the heart of the matter is, so that we can deal with it. Where when I was just being pressed, then you would end up with all the emotional stuff too, and like all the anger and all that. So like that's another reason why I was like, I just don't need to say anything, because if I can't, like I know I'm not gonna like, cause I like to vent.
Yeah.
So, and not everybody wants people to vent. So it's better to vent to God than, you know. And I mean, there's some things you can vent to each other about too, but not usually about that person. Like, they're not going to take it the way you think they are.
Yeah. So that's a big one with me. I think space, giving God space to work. And a lot of times it's not even, you're not even doing anything necessarily. Praying is excellent to give those cares to the Lord, but just giving that person space, give yourself time to calm down, give them space, and come back to that. And I feel like we need less and less space to do that emotionally. We still need soul space to where say, hey, I want to watch this movie or I want to read this book by myself.
Yeah. And it's cool when you can do those things, you know, together. Where I can just read a book and you can just play your game or something, you know. But the other thing I was going to say too, though, is even in giving each other space, we did still go a lot by the principle of not letting the sun go down on your anger. Yeah. Like not going to bed angry. We really tried hard to
not let the sun go down on your wrath.
Yeah, to solve it before the end of the night. I mean, there were a couple times where that did happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for the most part, we really try to adhere to that principle of like, don't let it fester. Give yourself time to cool off, but don't like stew on it for 5 days. Like, no,
because it causes a root.
That's ridiculous. Yeah,
it gets in the way of your prayers. The Bible says, you know, as you hear in the background, we're running the zoo, and so we're gonna have to cut this short, I think, because I think the the phone's gonna die.
Yeah, well, this was fun.
Asparagus, do you have anything you want to say? It's hard to see the glare. She's like, hey, hello. Manifest marriages. All right.
Good
Love
night.
y'all.